afternoon, Louisiana. Welcome to another edition of Bayou Bets. This one for Thursday, February the 23rd. I'm Zach Ewing. With me is Jim Derry. He's back. He rode with Endymion. He took off Mardi Gras. He reset himself, and you're back, Jim.
Sort of. I'm here. I'm here in spirit.
It's the first day back. It's always rough.
Well, I'm here in the physical sense, I guess. Maybe
Maybe not in spirit.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes.
How was the parade?
It was phenomenal. The crowds are great as usual. The weather was perfect. It was one of the better ones for sure. And the extravaganza was fun. It wasn't in the dome this year, so it wasn't quite as good as we like it when it's in the dome. They're doing some work in there, so we finished in the convention center. But overall, it was quite the experience as usual. And,
we did have terrific weather for Mardi Gras this year.
It was Mardi Gras Day. Well, it was a little hot Tuesday. We were out there.
Actually,
as you can see, I'm still recovering from the sunburn. I look like Rusty the Raccoon for a little while. That's okay. But look, I mean, I don't deny it. I'm whiter than white. It is what it is. So,
it's all worth it. It's all worth it. And now we are into the Lenten season, and we're kind of into the slow season of sports, at least for a couple of weeks, until we get into March Madness and NFL free agency, and then we'll be back and rolling again. But we do have plenty to talk about here on Bayou Bets. We are brought to you, as always, by Caesars Sportsbook. Go to LSUposter.com. Take advantage of this crazy deal while it still lasts. 3 LSU championship posters are yours for free for placing a $10 bet on a new Caesars Sportsbook account. That's a $90 value, so take advantage of that at LSUposter.com. You get to pick out the 3 posters, by the way. It doesn't have to be those 3 that we show.
When you say you mean me? I get to pick out?
Well, you already have a Caesar Sportsbook account, so you're going to have to find, I'm counting down the years until my daughter's 18. I'm actually not. But that's, they can have their own Caesars account, so we can have a whole wall full of LSU posters.
Well, I mean, I thought, might have some inside pull or something, but apparently not.
We'll talk later. We'll talk about a discount for you.
Okay.
Get you some
discount. Okay.
Yeah. All right. We are back in action with our new show format. We've got rants coming at the end. Jim's got his. I don't know if I really call it a rant. That's what we're calling it. But you've got a take on what the Saints are doing.
It's definitely better take.
Okay. It's a take plus, and it's one of our headlines. The second one that you see there. The Saints continue to create cap space. Rework to deal with Will Lutz, Ryan Ramczyk. Who was the other one they did this weekend?
I'm blanking.
Yeah, there was somebody else. There's 3 big contracts they've reworked over the last week, creating some cap space all the way in February, earlier than usual. So we'll talk about that. Our main headline tonight, the Pelicans are back in action. 23 games left. The All-Star break comes. They've played 59 of 82 games already, so just 23 left, and really got to get going fast. LSU men's basketball snaps the 14-game losing streak. They beat Vanderbilt last night, and Vandy was actually on a 5-game winning streak, so off the schneid.
I was going to say, I think vacation obviously has done very well for me because I think we might agree on stuff all day long. So I mean, I don't, maybe I should go on vacation.
Yeah, it's not going to happen for the whole show. I guarantee that. But I mean, I think we can both agree. LSU men's basketball, look. It has not been a good first season for Matt McMahon. He was put in a tough situation, and it's been a rough year, no doubt about it. But the team has not quit. I think you can say that. Very rarely are they just getting their doors blown off.
No, and they have played well. And I actually watched the whole game last night, and I liked the way that they played. They played with a lot of fight. You'd think that a 1-12 team would come out and, what do they care? They're 1-12. They're not going anywhere. They're going to be the 14th seed in the SEC tournament. It is what it is. But no, they came out and they fought the whole way. They got, a 10-point lead close to even a couple of times. They could have folded their tent. They had some really rough ref calls early in the second half that could have really got them down as well. They were, Vanderbilt was in the bonus with 15 minutes to go. Easily, I'm like, okay, this here we go again. And no, they found a way to come through, and I thought they played very well the last, especially 6 to 7 minutes of the game. did a great job. KJ Williams was really, really good. Hit a couple
phenomenal.
of clutch 3-pointers. And, so it was nice to see him pull through and find a way to win instead of doing the other thing.
I actually think they're not done winning either. I mean, I think
I agree.
Their schedule is not terrible. They play at Ole Miss on Saturday, another team that will be playing in the first day of the SEC tournament. They're home next Wednesday for Mizzou, my school, and Mizzou's an NCAA tournament team, but they're not unbeatable, certainly not at home. And then at Florida, and Florida doesn't have Colin Castleton. I mean, this is not a murderer's row by any stretch. Look, it's a lost season. I don't think they're going anywhere, but it'd be nice to win a couple more at the end of the year. Jerry's here. Jerry's here, and he's early.
Hello, Jerry.
After he was late on Monday, so we appreciate that, Jerry. We're about to talk some Pelicans. Hope is here too. Grandson had a heart transplant. Cash is so I guess we're looking for a shout out there for Cash. Cash, I hope everything is well, man. And look, get better soon, feel better soon. Our thoughts are with you.
For sure.
And finally, our last headline: number 1 LSU baseball. Not a very good non-conference schedule. This is the weekend they play the toughest opponents that they have. I believe they have Iowa tomorrow and K-State on Saturday. I might have that flip-flopped. And then they turn around and play Texas on Tuesday. So the next 4 or 5 days are the tough. If they can get through these games without losing, you never want to say a baseball team's going to be undefeated for a long time because it's baseball and anything can happen. But they have a very good chance of running their record to like 20-0, 19-1, something like that as they get into the SEC.
My nephew played his first ever college baseball game yesterday. Southeast Baptist College in Laurel, Mississippi.
Okay.
And they played William Carey. He led off the game, got hit by a pitch, scored a run, and then they got up 3-1 and lost 23-3. But it was a great experience for him. His first ever college baseball game. He led off the game and scored a run. So
that's fantastic. And 23-3 can only go up from
very,
here, so.
very tiny college in Laurel, Mississippi that I had never heard of until about 6-8 months ago.
You know, I think at a certain point you realize, okay, I'm not going to be a major league player.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be I'm not going to go pro. I'm not going to be a player in the SEC. But you just extend that career as long as you can, right? I mean, you're still playing baseball. It's fun.
Yep.
So, good stuff. All right, let's move on. Let's talk Pelicans. That's going to be our first topic of the day. And I saw Kyle's comment here: is Derek Carr worth $40 million a year?
We'll get to that shortly.
We'll get there. We'll get there by the end of the show.
Vacation didn't help me enough to not get into it with Kyle. So
I think for me, the short answer, Kyle, that's about the limit. I would go to 40. I hate to lose a guy like that over $1 million or $2 million, but at some point you have to draw the line. So I think 40 is about right. Pelicans play tonight. They're back in action. I mentioned they're 30-29. And look, they're sitting 7th place in the Western Conference, but they're both 2 games out of being in 4th place and a game and a half out of being in 11th place. So this could really go one way or the other. They're underdogs, as you saw in Toronto tonight, but very big games ahead for Willie Green's crew, Jim.
You know, I said in best bets earlier today, I like the Pels tonight. It was the second of the 2 best bets. And I like them because I think this first week's going to tell us a lot about what we need to know. And I think that, I think this is the week that they, if they're going to get back in this thing, we're going to know very early. And I think they are. And this is another argument that we're going to, or not an argument, but a discussion back and forth that we're going to have about whether the Pels are going to be relevant, where they're going to finish, and that sort of thing. But, I have a lot of confidence in Willie Green and saw what he was able to do last year. So, I think they're going to start off strong. And I think it starts tonight.
All right. I mean, I think they're going to have to. My take on the situation is that something feels different than last year. Last year they brought in C.J. McCollum. We pretty much figured by this point last year they weren't going to have Zion. But there was still this sense of, hey, we're the ragtag bunch of underdogs and we're going to get it done. And they kind of, they started so poorly last year. They rode that wave all the way into the play-in tournament, got through the play-in tournament, gave the Suns a battle in the first round. Now it kind of feels like the expectations may be weighing on them a little bit. And I'm not saying they're going to miss the playoffs. I still think they'll eventually sneak in. But the feeling's just different this year, Jim. We look at some of their odds at Caesars. Their win total's 42.5. It started at 45.5. They're minus 155 to make the playoffs. It started, I think, minus 190 to make the playoffs. I don't know, and maybe that's just a me problem, right? Maybe my expectations are higher, and so I don't feel as good about it. But something just feels off with this team.
Try to think about where you felt about this team last year this time. Not very good. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, even though they were feeling,
yeah.
No one would have predicted them to give the Suns a run for their money and fight to the death, basically. I don't think anyone would have expected them to have the end of the season that they had. So, I mean, it's a little early. I know it's, we're getting close to the 2/3 point or whatever it is.
It's almost three quarters, yeah. Almost
three quarters. So this is about the time when they really started making a move. So this is why I think, and look, we fail to mention how tough the schedule is they went through. When they went through that, granted, they lost them all, so that's bad. I mean, you lose all those games in a row, whatever it was, 12, 13 in a row, whatever it was. That's not good. But the point is that I think that they can come through that and learn from that, and they need to be, if they can do what they did last year, they're going to be better than a play-in, because I think they're, not just record-wise, I think overall they're ahead of where they were. And I really think, my son got on me because he was saying I was being super negative about Zion missing. I think there's a good chance that Zion does miss the entire regular season. But if he does come back, he could come back for those final weeks and give them a push. But I think this team is going to fight. Under this coach, with these guys, I think they're in a great situation to put something together and make a run.
Yeah, I mean, I think I do have some faith in Willie Green. I think the plan has got to be to get Zion back for, let's say, the last 8 to 10 games of the regular season. Get him some run before you get him in the playoffs and expect him to go 30-plus minutes a game. We did ask you this question. We asked you all this question on Monday. Where will the Pelicans finish? Here are the poll results. Most of you are pretty optimistic. More than 40% say they like, and this is where you are, Jim, I think, is number 5 or 6 seed. They will get into the main bracket without having to worry about the play-in. I'm kind of in the second category. I think they are going to have to. They won't be a 9 seed like they were last year. I think they'll be the 7 or 8 and just need the one win to get in. And eventually I think they do. But, of course, the issue with that, and we'll talk NBA at large here in a minute, the issue with that is then you immediately get bracketed against the Nuggets at the number 1 seed, or if the Grizzlies or Suns if they're the number 2 seed. And your stay is pretty short-lived, right? And then a couple of you more pessimistic saying this is going to be a disaster, 14%, and 7%, the most optimistic. I admire that optimism. A top 4 seed. I mean, it's possible. It's possible. They are only a couple games out, but you're talking about probably needing to go, 15-8 or better in these last 23 games for that to happen.
And if you look at their schedule, I think that's possible. And it's like, I liken it to, I was talking with, I'm going to leave this coach nameless because I still do play-by-play on the side for high school basketball, but there's a particular high school basketball coach who was looking at finishing around, it was where they were going, and you don't want to lose on purpose, but where they were headed was to finish like 8th or 9th seeded, which means they're going to have to play the 1 seed in the second round. And you're trying to avoid that, right? I mean, you're trying to avoid playing the 1 seed. Now, things fell their way, and they finished 10. He was much happier to finish in the 10 spot. That's one less home game you're going to get because you finished 10 instead of 8. But you had, I mean, the way that they feel is, and it's the same thing in the NBA. You're looking for seeding purposes, and I think the Pels realize, it's kind of the opposite. They know they need to finish 5th or 6th to have a chance to be more than just one and done. They're at 5 or 6, they can beat the 3 or the 4 seed and advance to the next round, and then play the Denver's of the world, or the Phoenixes of the world. Then worry about that. But for this team to advance, to me, and their progression as a franchise, they need to move on. They need to get that 5 or 6 seed. I'm not saying they're going to because of that, but I think they know that's where they need to be, whereas last year they were just playing for a play-in spot. So I think they will be ready and more focused on being able to take that step to the 5 or 6 seed. And again, I'm confident in Willie Green, and I like the moves that the team has made, even though there have been smaller ones, in just getting Josh Richardson this year in the trade deadline.
Aaron is one of the optimistic ones, says top 4.
High.
We'll see. High. I mean, it's possible. Kyle, their record last year at the All-Star break was 23-36. So they are much better this year. They did win their first 4 games post All-Star break last year.
Remember, they finished, what was it, 3? Yeah. They started 3-18?
Yeah, the only thing I'll say, and the caveat to that, they've got a much better record this year. They finished 38-46 last year. Actually, it was 36-46, and then they won 2 playoff games, technically making it 38-46. 36-46 not getting you any. You won't even be in the play-in this year. So comparing to last year is a little bit, because the Western Conference is so jam-packed.
Yeah.
And one thing I'll say, Jim, their schedule, they play, we mentioned the Toronto game tonight. They're in New York on Saturday, back home to face the Magic on Monday. After that, so now you're into March. That game in Portland is March the 1st. Their last 20 games, 18 of them are against Western Conference teams. So you're going to be playing the teams that you're battling for those last spots.
Yeah, they're in a good spot. Again, I'm counting on Willie Green to do what he needs to do, and I'm counting on the team to get together and play their best basketball. Again, this first week of the season, those 4 games you showed on the screen, I think we're going to learn a lot about this team, especially if they can get a 3-1 start or so, which is possible. I think they can win tonight. I know they're 6-point underdogs, but I think they can win tonight. The Knicks started off; they've had hot streaks during the season, but they're certainly beatable. The Magic haven't been, they're hot and cold. They've got some good young players, but hey, we're going to learn a lot. Again, talk to me next week at this time, and we'll see where we are. But I feel good about where this team's going to finish.
All right, let's talk NBA at large as we move on to our second topic here. And as we come out of the All-Star break, here are your odds. And the biggest change, of course, when Kevin Durant was traded to the Phoenix Suns at the trade deadline. He still hasn't played a game in Phoenix. I believe they said Sunday will be his first game. That's the latest report. So he's going to miss one more game for Phoenix, and then he will play Sunday. So he's going to be in. Right now, Phoenix is sitting in the 5 spot in the Western Conference. And that's one reason why I think it's going to be difficult for New Orleans to get into that 5 or 6, because that's another team that's going to be rising. They're plus 450 to win the NBA title. Certainly no value there, Jim, but I guess how you feel about the NBA the rest of the way is really a reflection of how you feel about Kevin Durant. Does he elevate this Phoenix Suns team that was a playoff contender, but maybe not a title contender? Does he bring them to that top echelon in the NBA?
I mean, I thought more of them last year probably than I think of them now, even with Kevin Durant. I mean, people are writing off. We talked in pre-production about the Eastern Conference teams and how much people are kind of like not talking enough about the Bucks, but not that they're a big value at plus 475 either. But I mean, the Denver Nuggets at plus 700. I mean, they're going to be the top seed. They're kind of in the same boat that the Utah Jazz were in last year. The only difference is the Nuggets to me are way better than the Jazz were last year. I mean, the Nuggets and Jokic is just, I mean, this dude's phenomenal. So I don't think enough people are talking about those guys. The Heat aren't even under the notable. If you wanted to take a team that had a shot to win that's not on this list, I think the Heat could make a little bit of a run. The Sixers, I mean, that's not a great value there at plus 1,100, but it wouldn't surprise me at all if they made a run. So, Zach, you and I talked a little bit about how we thought that, maybe for the first time in a decade and a half, it's always been the West. The West it's a joke that the East, blah, blah, blah. Well, I think the East and the West are pretty close now. And we may be kind of moving in the direction to where maybe the East might be the better conference here soon.
Yeah, I don't think there's any doubt at the top when you're talking about Boston and Milwaukee. I think I'd take those teams over Denver and Phoenix.
I certainly would.
Memphis, the top teams in the West. By the way, the Heat 50-1 at Caesars, a longer price than the Pelicans. So if you stand with Jim and like that, 50-1 to win the NBA title.
I think it's a great bargain. I'm not saying they're going to win. I'm saying it's a great bargain, and I wouldn't be surprised if they make a little bit of a run. And the Denver at plus 700 to me, that is a bargain, and I would jump on that. I haven't yet, but I think I'm going to. I only have one future out there. It's the Pels. And
I don't know. By the way, the Celtics at plus 325. You shop around for these futures prices, but that is the best price you can get on the Boston is at Caesars, plus 325. I'm looking at some other books today, 250s, 280s, 260s. 325 is as good as you're going to get on Boston. So interesting stuff for sure. We'll see how that goes. NBA in a couple of hours will start up. I always laugh when people call it the second half in baseball because it's more like a third.
It's way
in
worse
basketball,
than
it's
NBA.
even worse. It's like a quarter of the season that's left. So we're really into the final sprint.
Well,
here.
As for a Mardi Gras guide, it's the perfect time because when I went on vacation, the NBA was just going on their vacation, and so I'm coming back, and they're just coming back. So I didn't miss that whole week of nothing.
Yeah, no, you didn't miss anything in the NBA. a terrible All-Star game. Yeah. Pretty good dunk contest, bad All-Star game. Speaking of basketball, and Kyle agrees, plus 700 on Denver. I tell you what, Jokic is phenomenal, and he's going to win his third straight MVP. And people make, oh, how could he be? No, he deserves it. I mean, you take him off that team and they're nothing. And but I will say the key guy for that team is Jamal Murray. He's been injured ever since he tore his ACL in the bubble, I think, and he hasn't been the same ever since then. But he's back. At least not in the postseason. He hasn't been the same. He missed an entire season. He's back, and he is a big difference because he spaces the floor for Jokic. And so I think Denver's going to be a tough out for anybody. Moving on to another top basketball topic and a regular season wrapping up, and that's in women's college basketball. And this is topic number 3 for us. The LSU women's basketball team, just 2 games left in this regular season. They're going to be huge favorites in both. At Vandy tonight, they're 18-point favorites. I want to say they're home for Florida on Sunday is the last one. And so, chances are very good LSU will finish 27-1, headed to the SEC tournament. My question for you, Jim, as we look at futures odds, they're only 7-1, but again, if you shop around, we're sponsored by Caesars. These are Caesars odds. You can find a much better price on LSU than this. You can find as high as a 20-1. Is there any value on LSU at 20-1 to win the NCAA title?
You want me to be nice, or you want me to tell the truth?
I always want the truth.
Okay. You can't handle the truth. Well, maybe you can, but a lot of people probably can't. They can play South Carolina 100 times. They're not going to beat South Carolina. So don't bet it. It's a waste of time. It's a waste of... Now, if you want to bet them to make the Final Four or something like that, or if they get the right bracket and they don't have to play South Carolina to the championship game, great. Go ahead. Bet they'll make the championship game. They're not going to beat South Carolina. I mean, I talked about this before. Sorry, Zoe, but they weren't going to cover against South Carolina the first time they played. They're not going to cover against them when they may. It wouldn't surprise me at all if the SEC tournament is a little bit different and they cover because the spread, first of all, is probably going to be a little bit higher. Maybe they play a little bit better. But look, Kim Mulkey is. I mean, I know she's doing lip service to get her team fired up, but Angel Reese couldn't play against that team, and she needs to be, the Angel Reese that we've seen all year, and I'm not sure that she can play against the South Carolina. She doesn't match up well against this South Carolina team. Not a lot of players do, but she just doesn't. And they're the behemoths for a reason. They're going to win another national championship.
Yeah, I mean, women's basketball above any other sport is a sport where
there's
historically
value in minus 160. I would never say that in any other sport, but there's value on South Carolina, I think, at minus 160.
The favorites get there more often than they do in any other sport. And honestly, a couple of weeks ago, you could get South Carolina at even money. That was the real value. Now they're minus 160. I will say this. They played UConn, and this is not the UConn. This is not your big brother's UConn. Like they've lost 4 games now. I know they've lost 2 in the Big East, which is the first time they've done that in like 12 years.
They almost lost back-to-back games for the first time in forever.
Yeah, I think they did. It was against South Carolina and Marquette. And
I meant back-to-back conference games.
Oh, okay. But I will say they gave South Carolina a run. Stanford took South Carolina to overtime. I don't think South Carolina is quite the juggernaut that they were last year. They can be beat. And so I'm going to go ahead and say there is some value. Not really at 7-1, but if you can get LSU at 20-1, if you shop around, maybe somebody else knocks off South Carolina for you. And like you said, you're on the opposite half of the bracket. You get to Dallas for the Final Four. I'm holding a 20-1 ticket on a team I think should make it to Dallas for the Final Four. I'll take those odds.
Zach, it might snow in New Orleans on St. Patrick's Day, but I'm certainly not betting on it.
I will be in Las Vegas on St. Patrick's Day, and it probably will not snow there either. But
I mean, it snowed here as late as I think it was March 28th or 29th in '93. So I mean, anything's possible, but look, don't count on it.
If I can get them at 20-1 and they make it to the Final Four, at that point you can hedge, you can hope for an upset somewhere. I mean, you're in pretty good shape at that point.
Mm-hmm. So you're betting to hope you get a chance to hedge.
Well, when you put it like that,
I'll pass.
Yeah, all the air goes out of the balloon.
Yeah,
so.
I'm sorry, I'll pass.
All right, our fourth topic, starting tomorrow, we have games, real actual games in the Cactus League and the Grapefruit League, spring training storylines in Major League Baseball. I think the big one really is, and we'll talk about the betting angle in a minute, all these rules changes. They banned the shift. You got to have 2 infielders on either side of second base, and I think their feet have to be on the infield dirt as well. And then you have bigger bases, and you have a pitch clock, so it should be faster games. In the minor leagues, it worked out to be faster games. The shift, any of that do anything for you as a fan to change the way you watch this game or your enjoyment of it?
They're ruining the game. I mean, they keep doing things every year. I think, well, they can't ruin the game more than they ruined it. They're ruining the game. I mean, there's no clock in baseball. They're like, there's no crying in baseball. There's no clock in baseball. It's not going to change anything. They'll find ways to make it long. I mean, it's getting to where Joe Blow, under the age of 40, is going to say, to hell with baseball. The ones that play baseball will still love it and watch it, I guess. But, I mean, average Joe Blow doesn't care about baseball, and they're making it worse. I mean, stop doing all this stuff. I mean, you're making it you're trying to make it like the XFL. I mean, let's bastardize the rules enough to where we see if we can get people. It's not working. I mean, the only thing that I would be for that they haven't done yet, that they're probably going to end up doing, is for the computerized strike zone. That would make the game faster, right? The light blinks red or green. You can't argue the call and move on. I mean, so you want to do that, great. But stop all this changing the shift and, I mean, pitch clock. Come on, give me a break.
The worst one is the ghost runner in extra innings.
Oh, that's absurd.
That. And we're going to sound baseball. Like we're yelling at people to get off our lawn. Why are you trying to artificially end the game? The pitch clock, I'll push back on that one. The pitch clock, from what I have heard, and I did not see a minor league game in person last year, but from what I have heard, it is almost imperceptible. But the games averaged 2 hours and 30 minutes instead of 3 hours and 5 minutes. It made a huge difference.
They'll find a way to make.
We'll see.
They don't have the same TV breaks and all in those minor league games they're going to have.
That's
in
true.
These games.
That's
so
true. But
I
am hopeful.
Much of a difference.
Maybe it won't be 2 minutes and 30 minutes, 2 hours and 30 minutes. Maybe it'll be 2 hours and 40 minutes. But that's still a big difference.
If you can keep a Red Sox Yankees game from being under 3.5 hours, then you're doing a good job. But other than that, I really don't care.
We will wait and see. And in the meantime, we do have World Series odds as spring training begins.
Mac alert.
This is the first time in, I think, 5 years, I think it was 2018, that the LA Dodgers were not the NL favorite. That year it was your Chicago Cubs. They're not the World Series favorite. They're not the National League favorite. They're nothing. It's the Astros, and you have an opinion as to why that is.
Yeah, I mean, it's Mattress Mac is skewing the odds now. I mean, I can't believe I'm saying this, but that one person could skew odds, but it's true. Why would the Astros be 5-1 to win anything? They're good, but they're not that good. I mean, they won the World Series, great, but Mattress Mac has skewed these odds, and people don't want to give them a chance to win more money, and that's what it is. I mean, to me, well, the Yankees are always skewed, so I mean, to me, their plus 750 number is too big either. But you got to like the Dodgers. You finally got them at a decent number, plus 800. I think to me, that's the one that stands out more than any other one. Now's the time to go grab those Dodgers because you could see them winning. Like there's a lot less pressure on them, right?
You took the words right out of my mouth. I mean, all of these teams have the hype of the offseason. The Astros win the World Series. They only lost 2 games the entire playoffs.
Mariners.
They lost Justin Verlander. I mean, but they still have all the hype. The Yankees always get the hype, as you said. They re-signed Aaron Judge. The Mets signed everybody. The Padres signed everybody else. The Dodgers are sitting right there, like
right where they want to be.
And I know they lost Trey Turner. They did, and he's a good player. But they're also getting healthy. Dustin May is going to be healthy for the first time in a couple of years. Their pitching depth is going to be back. At 8-1, I mean, look.
In baseball, to me, more times than not, it's not the team with the most talent that wins. Ask the Yankees. Because a lot of times, over the last 10, 12 years, the Yankees have had the most talent in baseball and still flop. Or the Mets have had tons of talent and flop. And the Dodgers, the last couple of years, have had probably the most talent in baseball. To me, it's the team that gels the most. And it's like football. The team that has the most chemistry and vibes the most, especially throughout the course of a 162-game season, is the one that I want to bet on. And I think the Dodgers could be in a position now to where they make that run and have a little recharge now that they got some changes made.
Yeah, I mean, Trey Turner, a good player, but last year they were 4-1, and now they're 8-1. It just doesn't add up to me. Yep. Jerry says he's got the Braves winning the World Series. He also has a question. I think this is for you because you spent your vacation watching the XFL.
I did, and it's our daily best bet
like a sick human being. Who do you like tonight? Wait. This is let me try to guess the goofy nicknames here. This is the Battlehawks.
That's right.
And the Sea Dragons.
Correct.
See, you just got to think of
it's
the goofiest
weird
thing it could be.
You think Hawks, you think Seattle.
Yeah.
So it's kind of.
What is a Battlehawk?
I don't know. What is? I mean, you could probably go
hawk
through and find
battle?
some of them in the NFL too. I mean, I'd have to think about it for a minute, but I'm sure you could find one or two.
Sea Dragons or Battlehawks tonight?
I'm taking the Battlehawks. The Sea Dragons. Now, look, St. Louis has gone on the road for the second straight time, but last week they were with San Antonio, had a short trip home. Seattle is halfway across. Seattle had to go all the way out to D.C. for their first game, then go all the way back, and they're playing on a super short week. They had to play Sunday night, and now they're playing on a Thursday. Sunday night, Thursday night. That is a tough spot to take. I also like the under. I think it's like 37. The Battlehawks, they weren't able to get done much with A.J. McCarron last week until the very end when they needed to, but their defense was phenomenal, and they limited San Antonio to field goals. I like the Battlehawks. I would take the spread to be safe +4, but if you want to take that, it was +158 earlier on the money line. I also like that, and I do like the under as well.
All right. All your XFL betting knowledge right here. Zoe, by the way, very useful information here. A Battlehawk is the name of a drone, according to Wikipedia.
So stick that up your Battlehawk.
Battlehawk. Maybe I'll go bet on the Battlehawks, and I'll have something to watch tonight besides
Jerry's right. It was nice
Jim Haslett.
Former Saints coach Jim Haslett coached the Sea Dragons and lose. And Greg, the only thing that was negative towards it is former Saints defensive coordinator Greg Williams is the defensive coordinator for the Washington Defenders, and they won. So one of our ex-bums had to do something.
Yeah, well, somebody's got to win and somebody's got to lose.
You had Bounty Gate and Aaron Brooks defender.
All right, it is time for our rants to end this show. We call this segment Let Me Sound Off. Let me sound off first. We're talking about teams that win and teams that lose. There is a reason that teams that pick at the top of the NFL draft keep picking at the top of the NFL draft. Because every year you have these teams that need a quarterback, right? And every year they screw it up and Blake Bortles or Zach Wilson goes in the top 5 of the draft. And you wonder why the same teams suck every single year. Well, now we hear news that Anthony Richardson is being considered as a possible number 1 draft pick. I've heard the Colts might trade with the Bears to go get him. Maybe the Carolina Panthers. To which I say, what are you thinking? Anthony Richardson, the Florida Gators quarterback, had a couple of tremendous games and a couple of tremendous highlights. He also had a couple of tremendous lowlights in his career at Florida, and he is not ready to be an NFL savior for any franchise. And look, this is not a knock on Anthony Richardson. I would take him, if I were the Saints and I needed a quarterback, I might take him at number 29 and say, hey, he's a project in a couple of years, he might be ready. But if you're taking him at number 1, you're expecting him to step in day 1 and be a starter and turn your franchise around. That's Bryce Young. That might be C.J. Stroud. That is not Anthony Richardson. And he is, every year we get this combine baby or this pro day baby who everybody thinks, oh, this is the guy, he's going to be the savior. And all of a sudden, Zach Wilson ends up the number 2 pick and cripples a franchise for 3 more years. The Jets have actually done a pretty good job surviving that. But Anthony Richardson's the next one in line. You got to be kidding me. He can't be the guy at number 1.
You didn't seriously say he would be okay for the Saints to take at 29.
If they need a quarterback, I mean, that's the spot in the draft where I would take him.
What could you have possibly seen that would make you think that he could be a franchise quarterback for any team?
He's got the talent. I mean, I think
he doesn't.
I think he's got a good arm. He's very mobile. He can run. Like, you could see the guy becoming Lamar Jackson.
He wasn't even good in the SEC.
But you have to. Now, Lamar Jackson won the Heisman Trophy. Anthony Richardson against Utah, a pretty good team, looked like a Heisman Trophy winner. But he only did that like twice more the entire season. This is a guy I like for the Saints, Jake Hayner, Fresno State.
The Saints' next quarterback, you're not going to want to listen to Data 2 for like 2 months.
No, I really will want to listen to it.
And then
I really will want to hear.
during the season, if he becomes the Saints starting quarterback, you definitely won't want to listen to the attitude for like 2 months.
But Anthony Richardson goes from 80-1 to 8-1 to be the number one pick in the NFL draft. If
So
that
I agree
steam
with your
actually means
premise.
he's going to be picked, what are we doing?
The premise of your argument was fine and dandy until you brought the Saints into it. Maybe they should pick him at 29. Look,
I wouldn't do it.
I hope I'm wrong, but for the kid's sake. But I don't think he's a franchise quarterback. I don't think he's a starting quarterback in the NFL. Period. So no, he nowhere near should be the first round. And I don't. If you want to go ahead and throw away whatever money it would take to throw away to bet on him being the first pick of the draft, go ahead. I don't know where this is coming from. Don't care. Someone probably saw him talking to someone in the Colts. Someone said that he was talking to the Colts and it went well, and all of a sudden the odds drop. That's all it takes. So he's not going to the Colts, not going to the Bears, not going to the Texans, not going to any of those teams. He's not going anywhere near the top half of the first round of the draft. And good Lord, please don't become a Saint.
To be fair, you also said Justin Fields was not an NFL starting quarterback.
He's not.
I will continue to disagree with you on that one. All right,
Well,
Jim Derry.
Hold on. He is an NFL starting quarterback and will continue to be an NFL starting quarterback. He's not a good one, and he never will be. There you go.
Earmark this, Zoe. We're going to
go ahead. Earmark it all you want. They'll never do anything. You can earmark this and play it back 1,000 times. They'll never do anything besides just make the playoffs. Maybe. They'll never go beyond. They'll never win a playoff game with Justin Fields as their quarterback. How about that?
So if the Bears say that Justin Fields is available, are you dangling your first round pick if you're the Saints?
Hell no.
Woo!
I'd rather Andy Dalton. Because at least I know that will lead to them getting a quarterback the next year or two. You get Justin Fields, you're stuck for 4 or 5 years.
Justin Fields will make a Pro Bowl in the next 2 years.
I'm not.
That's mine.
Huntley made a Pro Bowl. That doesn't mean jack. Who cares if he makes a Pro Bowl?
Well, that's true.
I don't deny that
the
at
Pro
all.
Bowl has become a joke. So
I mean, the Pro Bowl means nothing.
All right. Okay. All right. That's a good segue into Jim's sound off.
There you go. You got me. It took you a little while. You got me fired up.
I got you fired up. Okay. Now. The New Orleans Saints, as we mentioned at the top of the show, have made several moves to clear cap space, including a couple today. Will Lutz and Ryan Ramczyk both deferring money on their deals. This is a little bit early, Jim, and you think something could be up.
Yeah, they usually don't start making cap space until later on. So the fact that they're doing it now, I don't know. I don't want to come out and say, they're making the room for Derek Carr, Jimmy Garoppolo, but they're doing it for a reason. They don't usually do it this early. I mean, maybe they know they have to do it, so they're getting ready, but they usually like to see what happens during the draft and then start making moves. So the fact that they're doing this early does tell me that maybe they do have something in the works. And look, going back to Kyle's question from earlier about Derek Carr, the position, I can't believe I'm saying this because I think Derek Carr is probably top 8, top 10 kind of quarterback. He's not a top 6 quarterback. He's somewhere in the 7 to 10 range. But they got to do whatever they can do to get him. There's just not unless you want to sit through and watch this crap again next year. I mean, I don't know how many other ways to say it. You've got to go out and get this guy. He's really, Jimmy Garoppolo is okay. I don't particularly love Jimmy Garoppolo. He would be better than what we have. But I don't want to watch this again. And if you don't get one of these two guys, you're stuck watching this same 7-10, 6-11 type season again. And I don't want to watch it again. If we have to, we have to, and it is what it is. But, Derek Carr, Jimmy Garoppolo, the only two guys that are going to be available that are better than what we have now. And otherwise, if you don't get one of those two guys, you got to go into the draft and hope you get someone that can play, because you hope that, unfortunately, Andy Dalton's going to have to try to groom some young quarterback, and you don't want to do that either. And I don't want to hear look, anybody who hates Derek Carr, who doesn't want, and I'm going to say this again, because I haven't been able to say this in a couple weeks. Aaron, whoever doesn't want Derek Carr, okay, you don't have a clue of what you're talking about in the NFL. You would rather, there are people that would rather watch the same crap that we're watching now then go and get a real quarterback. And Derek Carr is a real quarterback. I mean, yeah, he throws some interceptions. He's played with an awful offensive line throughout his entire career. He's played with a team that has had defenses that have ranked from anywhere from 26 to 32 since he's been in the NFL. He had a team last year where he had a great receiver, Devontae Adams, but his other receiver that was supposed to be great, Mr. Darren Waller, he was supposed to play, remember? And then he got hurt, and he wasn't there most of the year. So I'm sick of people getting all of Derek Carr. Did you not watch what we watched the past 2 seasons and learn anything? And I'll say it one last time. Drew Brees is gone, and he's never, ever coming back. There is no another Drew Brees. So that's what people start. That's the problem is they have a measuring stick that has Drew Brees on it. You can't measure anyone up to Drew Brees. So
here's another comment from Aaron saying Jameis
$40 million.
Jameis not coming back either. I mean, look,
Jameis is gone.
Whether you think he was treated fairly or not, or whether he was ever healthy, I mean, there's a lot of mystery around that. But he's not coming back.
Would you come back if you were him?
No. Kyle says well, first of all, Mahomes is at $45 million a year, not 40, which I know that's not a huge difference.
Comparing apples to oranges,
but it is a difference. The other part of that is Patrick Mahomes took a very team-friendly deal because he wants to win 5 Super Bowls, and he might very well do it. Here's the thing. Whether you think Derek Carr, because I think if you split the starting quarterbacks in the NFL into 4 tiers, top 8, next 8, he's in that second 8. He's somewhere between number 9 and number 16. Now, you could argue whether it's 9 or 16. He's somewhere in there. You could
argue he's the bare bottom of the first tier or the very
let's say somewhere between 8 and 16. Yeah, he's somewhere in there. And all of those guys within 2 years will be making $40 million a year. That's going to become it's going to become the going rate for a quarterback in the top half of the league. It isn't quite there yet. It's probably like $35 million, but the salary cap is going up, and competition is going to make that number go up. And so $40 million a year to me is not a deal breaker at all. Yeah, I don't know that I would go to 45. But
this is why you're comparing apples to oranges, Zach. You don't know. I don't have it in front of me, but I don't know what the cap was when Mahomes signed his deal. But it was somewhere in the neighborhood of like 175 to 180 million. And now it's in the neighborhood, I think it's 225 million. Yeah. So you're talking about a major difference. So if you extrapolate with that 45
I don't understand this comment. Why does that put him at 30? You're not getting him for 32. You're not getting him for 32.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is if you take the 45 million and multiply it by 1.25 or whatever the heck you would have to multiply to make it today's salary cap, then you're talking about a contract all in excess of $50 million. So, but you're right, though. Every decent quarterback is going to be making over $40 million within the next 2 years, 2 to 3 years. Look, you can't – he's not worth this, he's not worth that. You know what? I don't care what the money is. The Saints, whatever the Saints think they can afford, once they do this cap clearing, they're clearing this cap for a quarterback. They realize that the number one position they need is a quarterback. I don't care what the money is. Once you clear that space and you figure out, okay, Derek Carr, here's what we have to offer you. Then here's the money we have to offer you. Are you willing to take it? Yes, you want to take it. Great, you come on. If it's $38 million, great. If it's $43 million, great. Whatever it is, you've got to get a quarterback. The Saints they don't hold any cards. I mean, pardon the pun. They don't hold any cards. They're at the mercy of these quarterbacks, and you have to pray that you can talk Derek Carr into coming here. Because if it's $38 million or $43 million, whatever it is, they've got to pay it because they just can't do it. And by the way, you can't just go get Fields. Just because you can show that comment. Just because I don't think Justin Fields is a great quarterback, I'm in the minority. Okay, a lot of people just think Justin Fields, and he has a special talent that hardly anyone else has. Regardless of all that, you don't just go get Justin Fields, even if you wanted to. It doesn't work that way. I mean, it doesn't work that way.
Well, it's going to cost you a first-round pick.
And Kyle Brister, he did not turn down $40 million from the Saints. He turned down a trade. He didn't want to be traded from the Raiders. It's a lot different than him. He didn't turn anything down. People
Kyle's fingers are smoking on his keyboard.
They don't know what the hell they're talking about.
Your fingers are smoking there. Kyle, we appreciate you. We appreciate all of your creative takes. We are going to sign off for the day. We'll be back Monday, 4 o'clock. Have more to talk about. Derek Carr has visited the Saints. That was when he was still technically a Raider. He has visited the New York Jets. There are rumors that maybe a visit with the Carolina Panthers is in the works, but we'll see what happens with that. We'll also have some more stuff to talk about as it pertains to LSU basketball and baseball on Monday, and the Pelicans, of course. So tune in at 4 o'clock on Monday for more Kyle Brister comments.
Whatever.
I don't know. All right. Thank you for watching, everybody, and we will see you on Monday. That's Jim Derry. Our producer is Zoe Collins-Rath, and I'm Zach Ewing. We'll see you next time.